Welcome back to the channel. This is your boy Rich Latta here, back with another video. We're going to be reacting to the FlightMike's video, WNBA players will not accept reality. Haven't watched the video, don't know what he's talking about, but of course this is a reaction format. I'm going to be pausing and adding in additional things, agreeing or disagreeing, and kind of, just talking to you guys about kind of what I think about the video. So let's pull it up here and see what FlightMike is talking about here. And I'm going to put it here so I can watch it, and let's watch it together.
And so they've now announced yesterday they're opting out of their CBA. Now there could be a potential work stop. The CBA will expire next October.
The players and the league are now on the clock to negotiate a new CBA by the end of the 2025 season. And y'all, the timing of this decision is truly huge.
Chene was just a little too excited to say the players were opting out. It was just like she had personal stakes in this. You know, she's a former player and all that, but just that look on her face at the end, like, all right, let's see.
NBA is coming off of their most viewed season in league history, and the future of women's basketball is looking brighter than ever. However, there might not even be women's basketball after next year. And there's only
I think he's doing a little fear mongering right there. There is going to be women's basketball in some form. Just the CBA is expiring, and they're on the clock to get a new one done, which I'm sure they will.
One thing that can prevent that from happening. Right after historic WNBA finals, the Women's National Basketball Players Association decided to take an early look toward the future, choosing to opt out of the collective bargaining agreement that was signed in 2020 in hopes to significantly raise salaries for players. And
if you're going to opt out and you had the chance to do it, why would you not opt out, especially after this past season? And we know a lot of that is linked to Caitlin Clark and her making the line go up, essentially. There's no better time for the players to do that. Acting as if they were supposed to just let things ride is insane.
That doesn't happen, we might not see WNBA basketball for a while. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications. And now that we get all that out of the way, mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? In 2020, the Women's National Basketball Players Association reached a deal with the WNBA on a new CBA, which means players would be able to make much more money than they had before. And for the first 5 years, it worked like a charm. The highest salary in 2019, which was the year before the CBA was signed, was being earned by Dewana Boner of the Phoenix Mercury, who was making a little over $127,000 per year. This year, the three highest earning players, Arike Agunbowale, Jewel Lloyd, and Kalia Cooper, all made
Man, he's just killing all these names. Copper, Bonner.
$142,000, which is almost double the amount of the highest salary in 2019. Players have been making more than ever, but after a season in which the WNBA saw a 115% spike in viewership, which is a lot by the way, those same players want even more money. The problem with that though is that despite the massive increase in ratings, the WNBA still lost around $40 million this year. So if the players want a pay increase, they're going to have to find a way to be profitable.
But the WNBA Players Association, well, they think they're worth more, and good for them. God bless them. I hope they are. They should get every dime that they deserve. But I also think that they should pay back the money lost.
We don't.
So, like, the framing that Dan Dockich is saying of Outkick, he's acting like the players need to personally pay back the investors. No, that's the league that needs to pay them back. Like, the players here in this situation, they are asking for what they feel. They are the product at the end of the day. And yes, there's a lot of, business people to take care of and all that, but there is no league without either side. And I think framing it as if the players need to give the money back themselves is a little bit dishonest.
Now, what's so crazy about this negative profit margin is that the WNBA generated double the revenue this year as they did in 2019, bringing in a whopping $200 million compared to the $100 million they generated 5 years ago. So you might be wondering, how on earth did the WNBA double their revenue, yet still somehow found a way to lose money? Well, do you remember how earlier on in the WNBA season, we were discussing how they decided to charter flights all of a sudden? That's just one of the examples of ways worries that the WNBA reinvested additional money into their product. They just put too much money toward their product in order for them to see any profit. Now, I want to mention that this—
well, it's going to take money to make money. And I think that investment for the flights and all that is going to pay dividends in making the players' careers last longer, and ultimately they will make money for a longer amount of time because their bodies will be taken care of. They will be safe upon traveling, and they won't have to adhere to archaic rules around traveling. So I think that expecting that to come back in 1 year, regardless of how successful that year is short-sighted. And quite frankly, another example of why they need to tear down the system and rebuild it again.
This isn't the worst thing in the world. More eyes are on women's basketball than ever before, so the WNBA stock will continue to skyrocket, but as of right now, they're losing money, and they're actually costing the NBA money. Now, I'm not sure—
it's a drop in the bucket. The NBA investors have to, like the taste of crap and do it with a smile, because the NBA is never going to pull out of the WNBA. It was set forth by David Stern, and anyone acting like framing it like this is being dishonest, or they are not well researched on the NBA's relationship. Like, you can put out a headline and just say, wow, the NBA lost a lot of money on that, but like, do you know what an NBA team costs nowadays? Like, the amount of money that's tied up in the NBA, it's a drop in a bucket.
How many of you know this, but the NBA actually owns 50% of the WNBA, and they've poured hundreds of $millions into the league since its inauguration in 1996, including $15 million in 2024. Some WNBA teams are even owned by their NBA counterpart. So what this means is that the NBA is, and always has been, heavily invested in their women's counterpart, but the money that Adam Silver and the NBA are putting into the WNBA has not brought them any revenue in return. But hey, it's not like they really need it. The NBA made $13 billion this year, which is 65 times,
like I was just saying. Thank you, Mike.
The amount that the WNBA brought in. They're doing just fine. The WNBA, on the other—
don't be showing Angel Reese's jump shot to me like in a jump scare. I don't need to see that form just out of nowhere without forewarning. Calm down, Mike.
hand is about to go on hiatus if they don't find out how to please their players, all while simultaneously figuring out a way to actually make money. Lucky for them, there's actually an easy fix. All the WNBA needs to do is just copy the NBA.
And in the NBA, they have percentages of revenue shared for the players, right? So jersey sales, obviously their TV contracts. You see these every year, these contracts get bigger and bigger and bigger, right?
Yeah, massive.
But
so like I think what she's about to talk about with the jersey sales is the WNBA players don't even like make money off of their own jersey sales. For example, I tried to find a white Nafisa Collier jersey. I couldn't find one for sale that was available in like adult sizes that a man could wear. Couldn't find one. I could only find the black one, and there's also a blue road jersey, but they have got to completely rethink about their merchandise distribution, all these potential like money avenues that have just kind of been let go by the wayside until this year, until we all showed up essentially looking for to show our love for the game and the players we like.
But that's because their CBA, it negotiates where the, if the owners are making certain types of money, they get that as well.
Got it.
In the WNBA, that's not the case.
Kelsey Plum, who is the vice president of the Women's Players Association, by the way, put it perfectly. The NBA and NBAPA have their own collective bargaining agreement, which details that 50% of the revenue that the NBA brings in gets given to the players.
It used to be more for the NBA. Back in the day, it used to be like 57% went to the players, and the players kind of had to take a bath in like the late 2000s, basically, when they kept renegotiating and dropped down to that 50-50 level. But the television money started exploding so much, it really wasn't, much of a loss. They just got like, all right, 50-50, y'all own the teams, we bring people to the arenas. So
Recent CBA that the NBA and NBAPA agreed on was signed in 2023, meaning that the salary cap is increased due to league revenue getting higher and higher every year, and this has worked wonders for the NBA, and players are getting paid more than ever, with the average NBA salary now being around $12 million. Now, when it comes to the WNBA and their collective bargaining agreement, the WNBA only agreed to give the players around 10% of the league's revenue, with the exact number in 2024 being 9.3%.
Yesterday's price is not today's price. So I hope the ladies are able to increase that percentage. I know they want 50. I don't know if it's going to be 50. I don't know exactly where a lot of that is going to come from, because they do have to pay back some of those investors, which include like retired NBA players, business people, and they have to find a way to make it work, either like on a long-term repayment or like take a lump sum up. No, there's no even way to do a lump sum up front, because it's like, where do you get it from? So yeah, let's get back to it.
The average WNBA salary this year around $119,000, 1% of what NBA players make. But that's the thing, WNBA players don't want NBA money. They want to make the same percentage of their league's revenue as NBA players. They don't want tens of millions of dollars. They know that the WNBA brings in wouldn't allow that to happen. But if the WNBA and the Players Association were to agree on a 50% revenue share like the NBA has in a new CBA, the average WNBA salary would be around $700,000, with the top players making around $2 million per year, not 45. That's all they want. Angel Reese even went out and said that her WNBA salary, which is less than $75,000 per year, doesn't even pay her rent for the year. Now, Angel Reese makes a ton of money off of sponsorships, and her
long money.
Her rent is definitely higher than average, but Reese is among the more popular players in the entire league. Imagine how little this salary feels to somebody who doesn't have the popularity that Angel Reese does. Still, the problem with this proposal, and the reason that this isn't already the standard, is the fact that the WNBA would realistically have less money to operate, and they'd be losing even more money than the $40 million I talked about before. But with the league on the trajectory that it is, that money will come.
Which is fine, you know, it's an uphill battle, like I said, but
and a lot of people, I think, have intentionally misunderstood that, because I've been seeing Kelsey Plum hit the podcast circuit for a couple years, at least probably going back to like 2022, with the same line, having to clear up that misconception, saying we don't want the same amount of money as the men. We want, you know, the same percentages, you know, relative to our sport. And, you know, I don't know how you could really get upset with her for wanting that. You're supposed to want, you know, more, as in that situation, you are the worker. You were supposed to be like, you know, give me a little taste. So unless you're just like, thank you for any crumb that you give us. Like, no, like, it's, you know, they gotta, you know, be able to, you know, advocate for what they want. And I think the public sentiment for them is slightly turning. There's always going to be an uphill battle with that stuff, because people love to side with, you know, bosses and the corporations, and, you know, you can just look around the free world and see that. But, you know, I look at it from like, yo, I don't want to watch the owners own. I want to watch the players play. So
I guarantee you, as it continues to progress, I mean, things will change.
Viewership numbers are at an all-time high, attendance numbers are at an all-time high, and merchandise sales were up a ridiculous 76% in 2024. There isn't a scenario where these numbers take a hit with how popular the league has become. And if we're being honest, the WNBA fully has Caitlin Clark to thank for that. Her popularity and dominance alone sent the WNBA to a completely different stratosphere, even having similar viewership ratings to the NBA during the regular season. But
yeah, Caitlin Clark, way up here with tons of games drawn, several million viewerships. The league down here. The league what it used to be way down here. The midpoint has come up, but the ceiling has gone out of, you know, this world because of 22, because of Caitlin Clark. So the peak and the new normal have to be factored in here when we're looking at, you know, what's going forward for the players. We're not down here anymore, regardless.
All that growth is just the beginning. New players are starting to take over the league. The rise of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese will absolutely be one to watch. And most importantly, the WNBA is scheduled to expand in 2025, with the Golden State Valkyries being the newest WNBA franchise and the first to join since the Atlanta Dream in 2008, with the expansion draft scheduled to be held later this year on December 6th. Not only is the WNBA expanding to Golden State, but they're also putting franchises in both Toronto and Portland, giving the WNBA 15 teams by 2026 compared to the 12 they had for 16 years. Plus, there are plans to add one more team in a big market like Philadelphia or Boston by 2028 to make it an even 16.
Our plan and goal is to get to 16 teams in the next few years.
Boston will be weird just because they have Connecticut right there, and that kind of, I don't know if it's just supposed to be a regional rivalry there, but like, that's all kind of the same area, so putting two teams there might be tough.
This is a perfect recipe for revenue. More teams equal more games, and more games equal more money. It's as simple as that. WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert has already announced that the WNBA will be expanding the finals to a 7-game series, and the 2025 season will likely be expanded from 40 games to 44 games, with the addition.
So, a little bit more revenue right there. A little bit, more potential on the TV ratings for the finals. Should they get to a 6th game, 7th game, depending on who's in it. So.
Of the Valkyries. The future of the WNBA is brighter than it's ever been, and in turn, they'll make more money each and every year. But the league needs to make sure they even have the opportunity to keep growing, because they might completely lose their players. Kelsey Plum, who seems to be the voice of this entire operation, made it very clear what the WNBA's priorities should be, saying expansion is important. I understand growing the league. I don't think that it should take precedence over charter flights, over salary, benefits. I think if you were to poll the players right now and ask if they would rather have expansion or charter, I think it's a pretty clear consensus across the board. Expansion.
Yeah, charter flights I think are better for the long-term players in the league, and like any worker union, like the senior members are probably going to protect themselves. Like it won't matter like about the expansion because these players are not going to play in the league forever, but they're going to be comfortable in the league. And I think it's imperative that they get the charter situation corrected for all teams, because it's only going to lead to, better basketball.
Expansion will bring in more money, but they need to make the players happy with the money they already have if they want to see this through. If they don't reach an agreement with the Players Association, there will be a lockout, and that's the last thing the WNBA wants right now, so they better make this happen. The NBA and their Players Association were in a similar scenario in 2011, ultimately leading to a lockout that took away the first 2 months of the season. The NBA was seeing their ratings increase each and every year, and the players felt like they deserved more money than they were making. The NBA.
So, like, I understand the fear of a lockout, but at the same time, I don't understand the fear of the lockout, because all a lockout to me is a willingness to eventually make it right. It's like, we need to walk away from what was agreed upon to make it right. We need to look at making it fair for you, making it fair for us, and then ultimately, like, putting our product on display for the fans. With that, Unrivaled coming up is kind of a tool to ensure the top players don't have to buckle so quickly. So, and they've planned this thing out strategically. I think there are a lot of smart people here that are basically going to get the WNBA the deal that they are looking for, or something close to it. So, like, I don't think they're going to get, completely whooped by the owners here.
They didn't agree, so the players held out, pretty much preventing the league from doing anything, and it didn't seem like there was an end in sight.
There's a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo that goes into the equation, but at the end of the day, they're approximately $7.5 to $8 billion apart in terms of what both sides believe should be the end of an agreement.
That is until the NBA and Players Association agreed on a new CBA on November 26th. Still, the NBA had to run through things like free agency and training camp, so the season didn't actually start until Christmas Day, a full month later than the actual agreement was in place. As a result of this, the NBA saw its first yearly decrease in revenue since the 90s, and they're lucky it didn't decrease more. The only reason that their revenue...
None of this ended up mattering, by the way.
only decreased by $300 million is because LeBron James and the Miami Heat were on their way to win their first NBA championship, and that alone drew plenty of eyes. They only hit a decrease in value once since. It was because of a global pandemic where every professional sports league hit a decrease in revenue. This right here.
So like 66 game season, global pandemic. These are the things that ended up, you know, taking money from the league. We'll keep modern, like this season's NBA stuff away from this for now, but if the players end up getting taken care of in the W, things will be fine. Even if you gotta, like, you know, miss some time, and lucky for them, they have a way longer offseason. They don't have a condensed offseason like the NBA has just to get back to it. So they'll figure. I'm pretty confident they'll figure it out.
Here is perfect proof that the WNBA cannot let a lockout happen. They're already losing money each and every year. They can't afford to lose any potential revenue, especially not in a year where they'd be getting 2 new expansion teams. But let's just look at what women's basketball could hypothetically look like without the WNBA. College basketball, especially in March, would be the only way to watch nationally televised women's basketball. The only way for us to watch the top players in the league today would be during the Olympics, and surely before long, somebody would start a rival company that would match the players' demands, doing what the WNBA couldn't. Maybe
unrivaled, and if you don't think that they will expand to 5-on-5, it could happen. Especially like if, you know, the right players commit off the rip, the 3-on-3 format is successful. They're gonna have to get past people thinking it's a gimmick. But if there's no WNBA, people will seek that out to watch women's basketball for sure.
maybe they'd even call it the WABA, but of course this is all a long shot. A reality where the league and the players don't come to an agreement is highly unlikely. They might have a short lockout like the men did in 2011, but that's the worst it'll ever get. Players know that they deserve more money, but they're also basketball players at the end of the day. Their full-time job is playing basketball. They don't want to miss any opportunity to play the sport they love, and the WNBA knows that. They also know that if these players don't play, they lose more money than they ever had before. So it's very likely that these two find some sort of middle ground. Players might not jump from 10% revenue share to 50 like they want, but they'll see a pretty significant increase nonetheless. And everybody will end this dispute in a good place.
All right. So shout out to FlightMike. There were a couple things in there I disagreed with, and you know, some of the framing I think from some of the people he was pulling the information from I kind of disagreed with, but overall I think if you are looking at is a lockout going to happen, maybe. Like I could easily see it happening, but I think that's why it's going to be so crucial for you know, fans to keep supporting the league next year, and you know, eventually the league coming to the table with the players and figuring it out. There's going to have to be someone a lot smarter than me to figure out how the investors get paid back, how the owners get a piece, and the players are satisfied. It's not just two entities. There's a third one in there that kind of messes things up. So anyway, my name is Rich Latta. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I'll holler at y'all next time. Peace. One lifetime.